All right, everyone. Well, welcome to the final Gov workshop of 2022. Very happy to have some guests here from Future who have posted a proposal, a KIP draft to the forum. And so, as we always do, we're having them come and give us a brief talk about the proposal and then open up to questions. So since you guys are project, maybe before we get to the proposal, you could start by introducing yourselves and Future Finance and what you guys are up to, and then we could go on from there into the gist of the proposal itself.
Yeah, sounds good. I think what we'd love to do is give you context to the future and then kind of why we built USV, because it's a pretty nifty story behind it as well. So we'll wrap in everything together. First and foremost, my name is Charles Story. I'm the growth lead and co-founder of Future. I'm joined by Oliver Mayer, who's the product lead and my co-founder as well. Kind of a background to Future. As it says in the proposal, Future is a decentralized protocol that gives users passive exposure to crypto assets. So what we do is we create on-chain index funds and structured products to help you get exposure without the complexity. So we've built the Future DeFi Index, PDI, which is the first DeFi crypto index to allow for yield, powered through Yearn. Its unique architecture allows for best execution and can support a high number of constituent assets, which we're always looking to grow. I believe right now, if you go to the Future app on our website, future.finance, I think you can execute around a 1,500 ETH trade with little to no slippage, thanks to our integration with 0x. We've also built the Colony Avalanche Index, or better known as KAI, which is an ecosystem index focused on Avalanche as a whole rather than DeFi as a sector, which basically looks to add and include Avalanche's blue chip assets that meet the methodology, the constituent assets are optimized via YieldYak, and we have over 5,000 unique holders for that product. But this, after kind of building these two products, one of the problems we had is, we have a treasury that we manage. We raised the seed round back in 2021. But how do we get our money working for us? We're in a position where this is not money that we want to risk. This is not money that we want to lose. And we were looking at our options in the market and what we have at our disposal. One of our options is we could go to AV with our USDC. I think they're currently yielding 1%. We could go to Compound, currently 1% on USDC. So we went to both and we did that for a while. But the issue we faced was the yield wasn't really worth it. And it being variable, sometimes on our USDC, it went as low as 0.4%, right? That's what it was yielding, which really wasn't really worth our time and caused a lot of frustrations for us because we're spending more and more time trying to figure out how to manage the treasury. That's when we came across notional finance. Notional finance, or a fixed rate lending and borrowing market. Very simple concept. People want to borrow at a fixed rate. For that privilege, they pay a premium to the lender. So Notional have done over $1 billion in trade executions. They're publicly used by Yearn, and I'm sure many other blue chip DeFi lending protocols as well for the yields. But we ran into another problem. Notional has 3 different maturities, a 3-month, a 6-month, and a 12-month. When you deploy capital to a 3-month maturity, once that maturity expires, you don't earn any yield on it. So your capital is just sitting there doing nothing. So you have to update it. You have to kind of manage it. Now, if you're not managing and updating it, you're not earning yield, and that presents another problem because now your money's sitting there doing nothing, right? So now you have to think about, okay, when are the maturities going to expire? And you have to kind of start thinking about that again. And that presents another problem. So this kind of got us thinking, why don't we create a USDC savings vault which rotates the capital into a 3 or 6 month bond automatically, thus always earning yield, and meaning we don't have to spend any time managing the strategy as users of the strategy. Thus, the USDC Savings Vault, or USV, was born. USV is now the first USDC bond ETF of auto-rolling maturities. The contract USV uses is EIP4626, which is the tokenized vaults contract. It's used by Yearn, Alchemex, many other names out there as well. It's a very recognized contract. USV has been fully audited by PeckShield, and USV is backed and redeemable for USDC at any given time. It's something that we use for our own treasury capital. It solved a massive problem for us. And it's a thing that we feel is going to help many other DAOs and treasuries out there as well. It offers premium yields without the worry and stress that comes with that. We charge 0 fees on this product. Everything's open source. And we look forward to digging into your questions and having a very productive call today.
Okay, great. Well, then maybe if there are no questions about that, can we get into the gist of the proposal itself?
Yeah, sounds good. So what we've put together here with the KIP is essentially we've looked at the Rook Treasury, and what we've proposed is to invest 20% of the Treasury, so 1.9 million USDC, into USV. What we're proposing is to essentially start at around that mark, really to get you guys comfortable with the solution. And then who knows in the future to potentially kind of increase that level of exposure into the strategy. It's a very simple execution wise, it's very simple to do. To make you guys more comfortable, we could look at kind of smaller tranches if that's something that would be easier on the treasury side. But really what we're offering is just to optimize and activate that capital that's just sitting there idly. You know, we want to get that into USV, we want to get that USDC earning a yield for you. And that's what we've put together and proposed here. If you have any particular questions or points, we're happy to kind of dive into them. If there's any areas that Oliver and I can kind of go over or gloss over or provide more context for, we're happy to do that as well. It's something that we've built from our own frustrations, and hopefully it's something that will help you guys, and this is something that you're really in need of.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly touch on a few additional features as well that we built into it, which I think are neat and make a difference. When we was looking at building the CTF, we could have done a fixed weight strategy. We could have allocated specific weights to specific maturities and done it that way. But we kind of wanted to make sure that it was optimizing for the highest yielding maturity at all times. So we have, what we did is we basically separated the deposit function from the minting function, if you like. So the minting function would be where you actually invest into notional, and the deposit function is actually you just transferring USDC into a bucket, and that will eventually get, it's like investment cycles, that will eventually get invested. And what that did was made it, from a gas perspective, it made it cheaper to invest into USV than to invest into notional. And then we have an automated keeper network job that invests that capital that collects into that bucket into the highest yielding maturity. So we basically do a loop through the maturities, see which one is yielding the highest at that time, and then we allocate capital to that maturity. When the maturity expires, we do the same thing again. So the job is executed. The matured cash is then rolled into the highest yielding maturity, and there's also sort of there's actually like a binary search slippage protection mechanism built in, which I think is pretty cool. So if the trade is sufficiently large, if we're talking about I don't know, $10 million or something, where we're going to push the rate down by more than a specific percentage, we'll actually bifurcate the investment size and then invest it into multiple tranches to kind of alleviate somewhat the price impact. The idea is that you kind of tranche it, you wait a bit, there's a bit of arbitrage that can go on where maybe we've pushed the rate down low and now people want to borrow again, so they push it back up and then we can kind of invest again. So that's on the investing side. Then on the withdrawal side, this was really key for us because we wanted to, again, make it efficient. So the capital that goes into that bucket for minting, if someone wants to withdraw, we first pull it from that bucket. So that's unencumbered USDC. It goes to the withdrawer. And if their withdrawal can be satisfied from that bucket, then the gas fee is very cheap because it's just a USDC transfer. And the other benefit is that we don't have to sell any of our bond positions, which means that we don't affect the APR of the vault. But let's say that the withdrawal is large. What will happen is it will essentially waterfall down. So we'll go from the unencumbered USDC, we'll give you all of that back. And then what we'll do is we'll pick the lowest yielding maturity first, because it's like a zero coupon bond. If the par is 100 and it's 99 right now, there's not much interest to go. So we're going to redeem that one first, rather than the bond that say par's 100 and it's trading at 80, and we know we've got a lot of upside to go on that one. So by having a waterfall structure on the redemption side, we protect the APR of the vault, so we don't immediately sell positions that have a lot of juice in them.
And just to add on to Oliver's point there, from the Rook community point of view, we're in a market downtrend. Things are a little bit bleak out there. We're very positive things are going to turn around next year. I'm very confident about that. But I think everybody can agree we're in a position where we need to get our money working for us. We need to get us, to get our runway extended as much as we can. And I think that the position that you're in as a community, as a treasury, as a DAO, is one that you have a lot of USDC. So there's a lot of value there that you could be getting that at the minute sitting idle. And we feel that USV is the ultimate USDC solution. Not only is it going to give you the premium yield, outperforming AV and compound, but with that level of security and safety. But at the same time, we're not promising you 10%. We're not promising you something that's not sustainable. The yields are not incentivized. The yields are organic. And these are things that made us feel very confident with the solution that we've built and something that we've used for our own money. So hopefully that's something that resonates with you, and happy to kind of take the conversation in any particular direction that you guys feels best.
Yeah, I'll ask a first question here. So you've proposed 1.9 million USDC. What is that in relation to the amount in the savings vault right now?
In the vault right now, we have $322,000. So it would be obviously a lot larger than what we have in there at the moment. But I think as a number that should be a target, or as a number that we put into the proposal as a target. But as we understand, people want to test it, people want to try it out. So we would look at like a test size or something smaller if that made more sense.
The number though that is currently in the vault is not reflective to the strategy itself, because it's not like the vault is limited by USDC size. It's directly going into notional, right? So the question is, how deep is that pool size and how much USDC is there, right? And a $1.9 billion deployment into the notional USDC pool, would be absolutely fine and present no issues on depositing and withdrawing as well, which is also very important. Having access to your money at any time and making sure you're not, moving things around with that. So the vault size USV itself is not really reflective to the strategy.
So, could we go ahead, Ethan? So you muted there.
Nope, go ahead.
Yeah, so hey everybody, appreciate the post and for coming in and talking through this. One question I had was really about like the APY that we see and versus like what we can expect. If we were to come in with like that amount of size, my understanding of how notional works is the larger the amount of capital that you contribute, the amount of APY that actually goes down, I think is more of like a risk model for them. Could you talk a little bit about us coming with that size as it relates to like what we can expect from APY, knowing that probably will go down?
Yeah. So let me just pull up the notional app. They have a pretty helpful. Let me see, 3 point. So it's saying here on their side, $1 million USDC, right, would in the 6th month, because the 3 month is really expiring in 3 days. So it's being hammered at the moment. It's being sold. And so that's basically expiring. You can see the yield is just dropping off a cliff. So that's not representative. The 6th month is the one to look at. And at the moment, the rate's three after the fee that they take, it's 3.1%, right? And they're saying that with $1 million, the rate would go down to 2.7%. So that's, that's a number we can kind of work to. And then on our side, what we do is we wouldn't invest your say 1.9 all in one go, because of that slippage protection that I was talking about in the beginning. Basically, we're going to bifurcate your 1.9 million into tranches so that we give the market the opportunity to kind of bounce back before we execute a trade again. It's kind of a similar concept to, trading on Uniswap. If you have a really large size, you want to trade, let the arb take place, and then trade again, so you kind of get a better average price. So yeah, that's the type of price impact you can kind of expect on the interest rate. And then on our side, obviously, we split it so that it wouldn't go all in one go.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And apologies if this was already discussed and I missed it. But
No, I don't. Absolutely not.
Well, no, I was gonna say for the next question. Could you talk a little bit about like what that means to like, those tranches? Like, is that a relatively automated process? Is this like a committee of people who are tasked with like analyzing how and when to pull the trigger? Can you just talk a little bit about the execution side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So we you probably are familiar with a project called Keeper Network. They allow run automated jobs. We have a job on there which is called future harvesting. This is a job that runs. We have keepers that are consistently monitoring the job, and essentially we have a timeout window on that job, and then after the timeout windows has expired, keepers that are watching that job can execute what we call the harvest function. So if you were to deposit, let's just round, so we say you put $2 million into USV, that would not get converted into notional straight away. That would just transfer the USDC into our vault, and then the keepers that are watching this harvest job would then invoke that transaction as soon as they could, as soon as the timeout window allowed them to. And then what the harvest transaction will do will actually try to invest that $2 million into notional, and it will look at how we impacted the interest rate when we made that investment. And if the interest rate is greater than a specific slippage tolerance, then what we do is we start splitting the trade down, and so we make the trade a lot smaller, which will then be within our slippage bounds, and we invest. And so once we invest, what happens is the timeout window then kicks in again, and then say in 3 days' time, we'll invest the next tranche. So we're basically steadily investing it, but it's completely automated. There's no multi-sig or like no syssafe or committee. It's totally programmatic. Which I think is actually a very nice feature.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. When the initial transfer, like let's say our treasury to that initial vault before it goes into goes through like the keeper jobs or whatever it was called, is that vault controlled by multisig, or is that controlled like completely by a smart contract?
Completely by smart contract. So so if you have, like, say you had a multi-sig and you invested into USV, what you would have is you would receive USV tokens for your investment, and at any moment when you want to pull out, you can withdraw those funds just by burning your USV tokens directly on the smart contract. So not controlled by any multi-sig. Everything's programmatic from which maturities we invest into, because we just pick the highest yielding one, and then the tranches are also programmatic, done by the smart contract on the future job side. You can access your USV at any time, your USDC, just by burning. The only time when you couldn't do that would be if like the utilization of notional is massive, like the amount of USDC that's been borrowed is like say 95% or something, which is a factor of any money market.
Got it. Have you guys worked with like Teddy and the team there directly, or is this just more of like agnostic of what they're doing?
We actually worked really closely with those guys. So we're Teddy, and we've worked with the whole team there to really build this, and bouncing questions off of them, making sure that it was something that was solving pain points for them as well, because what we wanted to do was kind of open this product up for the retail user as well, who didn't want to manage maturities all the time and things of that nature. And that's why we made a point to also keep it gas efficient for for the for the smaller user as well. So this kind of product can support both sizes. But yes, we built it very much in lockstep with those guys.
You know what's really funny is this is a product that they wanted to build, and at that time when we synced up with them, they were very much focused on their leverage solution that they've now delivered on. So we worked really well, and we worked very closely with Jeff and Teddy over there to bring this to market.
Very cool, very cool. Glad to hear that. And I have some more questions. I'm gonna maybe pause and kind of cede the floor to see if anyone else has any questions about it.
Sure. Well, I have a question. So this is all super interesting, and maybe I should know Notion a little bit better, but this raises a question for me about taking USDC, where you somewhat know the credit risk, and investing it in instruments from notional, and so that raises the question of what is the credit risk in those instruments? Like, does that factor in, or is that an issue, or how does it work?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and I think that what we have to look at is kind of Notional's track record so far. So they've been going for about 2 years now, and at their height of sort of, I guess you could call DeFi summer, they had a loan book of around close to $1 billion, right? And then so this is just the lending side. I'm not saying they had borrowed demand of that much, but the lending side, they had close to $1 billion go in, and so I think that they've been battle tested throughout that period. There's been no issues. All of their contracts are fully audited. All of our contracts are audited. We've also built it on a standard which is well known, which I think was a key decision for us to kind of get over that trust factor. And so I definitely think that part of the premium rate is just because they don't have as much capital in there as they potentially could do. Maybe people, and I've been thinking about why that is, and I think maybe it's because people don't want to have to manage the maturities, because as Charles says, if you're in the maturity and it expires, you basically just earn the compound rate at the time, so you do lose quite a bit of interest. And I think the other factor as well is if you're not long term in your thinking and long term in the your time frame for the investment, the bond price does not move linearly upwards over time. There's a random path to it, right? And so if we lock in 3%. You're guaranteed to get that by maturity, but it might the rate actually might increase, and if the rate goes up after you've locked your 3% in, the price of the bond will go down, right? So over time, there's somewhat of a random walk, but you're guaranteed to earn that interest at maturity. And so when you see the maturity coming up in 3 days' time, like all of our bonds are like really come through now, and they've decayed a lot. So that's actually another interesting kind of payoff. The payoff profile is different. So if you say you lock in at the moment 3.3% and then the rate goes to 1%, if you're on compound rating, you're just going to, now the marginal interest that you earn every day is now at 1%. Whereas if you go through USV, what's happened is you locked in 3%, but now it's 1%, so the bond price has gone up. And you've benefited. Basically, you've just accelerated the amount of interest that you've earned because you've gone from 3 to 1. The price has gone up and you've benefited from that. So it's an interesting concept because when you invest, you know that you're actually locking in the rate that you're getting on that day.
Yeah, and then to add on as well, you see solutions like Yearn's YB USDC generating part of their yield via Notional, and I think there are some others as well that use Notional's premium yields for their strategies. So it's quite well renowned and used.
Okay.
Do you guys package any insurance offerings in?
No, we don't have any insurance offerings at the moment.
Okay. Do you know if Nexus would cover your product?
I mean, if that's something that would be critical in the decision to use USV or not, is something we can look into. At this particular point in time, it's not really been something that we've ourselves looked into so far, but I know it's something that we can get if needed. So,
you guys talk about the tranches that you would deploy the assets in. So let's say that we send over the 1.9 million. What What happens with the rest of the funds?
The rest of
Yeah, because you said you'll be slowly kind of deploying it so we don't incur any slippage or anything. Like, where do the rest of the funds sit?
They'll just they will see that was we could have like had it so that it was in CUSDC. It was one option that we decided not to go down to make it just again more cheaper to get in. That USDC is just going to sit there in the product until it's invested into the bonds. So you're probably looking at, you know, for if you do that sort of size, it's probably like a 2-week investment window to fully deploy.
So from like a risk management perspective, why would our DAO want that controlled on your side rather than just having our multi-sig deploy into Notional and manage that ourselves?
I think this is the key. The benefit that we're offering is the auto rolling maturities. It's the automatic management of the product. So, from your perspective, it would be like investing into an AV or a compound where you invest it and it just goes and earns you interest over time. So it's really that, and the way that we automatically manage the which maturities we invest into and which maturities we withdraw from as well to maintain the highest APR possible.
Yeah, and on top of that, there's 0 fees that we charge with this product. So, you know, you get all the benefit at no cost.
Can we drill? I know it's always a weird question, but like, what's in it for you guys?
For us, it's very simple. You know, we believe in traction. We've built this product because it's a product that we needed for our own treasury. We think this is, you know, needed by a lot of treasuries out there. We've spoken to a lot of treasury management firms, and they've, you know, said to us that inundated with treasuries coming to them and DAO treasuries coming to them. We're trying to get advice on what they should do and how they should manage it. So for us, if we can get big names to utilize this strategy, that's good for our business to be seen that way. So you could almost see it as, you know, fortuitous marketing in a way, you know, by getting all big DAOs, treasuries to utilize USV, you know, as net benefit to us.
But the goal is to have some kind of fee switch turn on at some point, right?
I mean, for that to make sense, it would have to grow. Right now, we're just focused on getting it out there, putting together good proposals, and just getting a feel for what the market thinks about this product. You know, it's something that we're very excited by, we're using. And from the people that we speak to, I think a lot of other people would really benefit from this as well. But I mean, at a later date, yeah, that could potentially happen.
I mean, I gotta agree. I'm pretty impressed with what I've been hearing so far. One question I'm curious, just from like what you've heard from others. And maybe another question first is how long have you guys been out here, you know, posting proposals and kind of hitting the ground running with trying to kind of get adoption of this product?
Not very long. So I think we put a proposal out on Balancer maybe 2 weeks back. Balancer's treasury is managed by Karapke. So we had a call with Karapke. They're in the process of, they're very slow, but they're in the process of reviewing USV. They're very excited by it. From their point of view, they want to advise treasuries on how to allocate capital. So when we put a proposal up on the Balancer forum, people were like, oh, why don't we just use this? Why are we using Karapke, right? So it created friction. So we wanted to reach out to them directly and say, no, why don't we work together? We can write proposals together once you're comfortable with the strategy and how it works. And we can go out and target DAOs together. So in the process now of going through that DD, I guess you could call it, but they're very slow and we need to follow up. So we've put a few other proposals out there, but it's very new. I think right now the idea of spending money on marketing makes 0 sense. And the best marketing we can do is by showcasing our product, our understanding of the challenge, and writing proposals like we've done here and having these kind of conversations, you know, that showcases our understanding of the need for this.
Have you heard anything?
It's like one of the... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Totally tangential point, really, but I was just going to mention that you may wonder why just 3 and 6 month bonds and why not 12 month, because they do offer a 12-month offering. And the reason for that is, and I think that this could catch people out if you're not aware of it, is there's like an idiosyncratic risk with the 12-month in the sense that there's no liquid market for it. between 6 and 9 months. So it goes, there's a 3-month window in that 12 months where it's liquid. Then there's a 3-month window where you can't sell it. There's no market for it. And then when 6 months kicks in, there's another liquid market for it, and down all the way to zero at that point. But so that's the reason why there's no 12-month bonds, because we always want to be able to sell, and the 12-month has that risk.
That makes a lot of sense. What other feedback or hesitations have you guys heard about like your product? Like, is it mainly like from a security smart contract perspective?
No, the feedback so far hasn't, like, we're welcoming of feedback, but we actually haven't received anything that's like, oh, we haven't thought about that. So it's just very slow moving the processes that are out there. So we're going through this process of they're reviewing stuff, but like, are they actually reviewing it? I don't know. So I need to follow up with them. We need to follow up we need to get some snapshot votes out there, some of the other proposals put forward. So we haven't heard anything that, had any feedback that has resulted in anything as of yet. Sadly, I mean, I wish we had some like feedback from people. Everybody seems to agree that's a great solution. It's a premium to everything else in the market. Yeah, I mean, if you guys have feedback, that would be great. It really helps us.
Are you saying governance moves slow? That's not true. No, I'm kidding. It's very slow. So I agree. That's likely the reason. I can attest. I think I have 4 proposals on the forum that are right now. So yeah, totally.
Yeah. The other thing as well, it's like, what I've seen, and I guess you guys have experienced it as well, is like the participation in governance has like really slowed down. And then everybody, when I talk about everybody, I'm talking about different protocols, has like different ways of doing things. And in a lot of cases, like governance is like, just like not many people are like, excuse my French, but like kind of reading it or care about it or give a shit about it right now. So that's been kind of tricky as well, because you're not getting a fair shake in any respects, because nobody's really that interested in reading the latest governance proposals and a lot of the protocols out there. So that really slows things down as well, even more so.
Yeah, sometimes the strategy has just been to like go directly to the founders of the team, instead of like, we may post on the governance forum and then it's not being, then the people aren't engaging with the governance forum, so we'll go directly and do it that way. I mean, I like Charles said, we welcome feedback, and I think that we've gone rounds in the balancer forum as well, and we've gone back to every single point, every single question. So I think we do a decent job of covering the bases, so that there's no sort of easy kind of like, oh yeah, that's the reason why. So yeah, I mean, at this point, we're just in that process of getting people familiar with it.
Yeah, I'd welcome you if you want to check out other proposals. Definitely check out the balancer one. We answered all the questions, and we've, at the suggestion of others, have connected with Correct Keys to go through the process of adding balancers, treasury funds into the strategy itself. So we are in process there.
That makes a lot of sense. Are you guys? I'm assuming you have a token, which looks like you can stake and have voting rights. So I'm assuming you're a DAO. Is that correct?
USV?
No, it's from a PHR.
In general, more generally, your protocol.
I don't think that. At this point, we're not a DAO. I wouldn't say we're a DAO. We realized early on that a couple things. The first is that we wanted to move quicker, and it was very slow, with proposals and then participation. But I think the bigger problem that we suffered is that if you have a DAO and your community is average, you get average results. And so what we realized is like, we've all been doing this since 2016, 2017, and we have a team which we take a lot of care in selecting who's going to work with us. And we feel that whilst we absolutely value market research, and we've been doing a lot of polls and a lot of different outreach in terms of like what people are looking for coming up in 2023, we felt like we had the best sort of vision of what we wanted to achieve. And so really, what we feel is like when we're going to build these products, we're going to drive adoption for, I think like the things that we're doing in the indexing space with PDI. Like right now, it's 3.2 million gas to mint PDI, because there's so many assets in it. We're figuring a way that we can triple that number, but without keeping but also maintaining the same gas. So for almost 39 assets will cost you similar to what it's going to cost today. So we're really doubling down on our product, but that's the reason why we haven't really leaned into that DAO model.
Yeah, and I think the other reason is we didn't have users per se. We had kind of community members, and there's a big difference, right? Like what we were getting is proposals to spend like 50 grand on YouTubers, and it's like, well, hang on, like what is that actually doing, right? And we wanted to open up the governance and the DAO when we have more users, right, which have more skin in the game per se. So that's kind of the thinking thus far.
Yeah, and I think that all makes sense. I know there's the degen side of some community members out there, but so I'm looking at your site, and it says you get voting rights by staking. So what is controlled by those voting rights currently?
What do you mean controlled? What is control? There's nothing. Where are you in the app, right? With the staking section. Yeah. To be frank, then, what does that say? See, you're looking at the tick. God damn it. Okay, yeah, we've got to remove that. We removed it from the paragraph above, but there's no voting rights at this point. I mean, I think that the path forward for the token is really around driving revenue at a later date. However, we're allowed to do that in the future, given regulation and all of that sort of thing. That's where this is going to go. But we also see that the value is probably not going to come from dividends, because we've seen what happened with sushi, and they gave all of the money that they made in the heyday through X Sushi. I think they put over 90 million through X Sushi, and now they're in a situation where they need money. They're having to cut costs. They're having to do these sort of things. So for us, we're going to look at sort of how we can pay back the token holders once we don't have better places to invest that money. Because ultimately, if we have better places to invest that money to continue growing the business and stuff like that, then I think it makes more sense to do that rather than give the dividends away. But that's the roadmap for us.
The other thing, though, which is the voting rights and what it kind of means, and it's slightly misleading, is more to do with the voting of in the future, the assets that the indexes hold. So say we hold PDI, there's assets there that we'll be holding or will be in the index, and potentially there might be some sort of thing in the future where we can use, or PHDR holders can have some sort of or ePHDR holders can vote over governance for those individual constituent assets. But we're far off from that.
Yep, I think that totally makes sense. Yeah, I was just curious just to understand if there's risk parameters or other things that are being tuned by a DAO or the token holders, but it sounds like that's not really the case. Nor are there too many different things to, I guess, maybe tune in this case, at least at this stage. But okay. I'm actually talking to Teddy. I was talking about you guys right now. He says you're legit, so that's good. But I think yeah, so I had to do a little due diligence there in real time.
Real-time DD, I love that.
Exactly. I think it was a lot of my questions, and I probably talked enough, so I'll give it up for somebody else.
So I guess I kind of want to give you guys a little bit more of the stage here, and just so what's next? So you have your savings vault product. You have a couple indexes. What's next for you guys?
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of thinking on the market, where it is now, where is it going, what's popular now, what's going to be popular. So I think it's fair to say that what's been very popular over the last few months, probably up to maybe 9 months, has been yield. USDC yield, ETH staking yield has been super popular and generated a lot in value. And we looked at that market, and we looked at different ways that we could, add value, different networks that we can add value to. And honestly, it's very saturated at this point. it's really hard to find a discernible edge that you can lean behind. And I think that, if you're going to launch something that is just the same as or very similar to what's already out there, you either have to drop a lot of incentives on it to make it work, or it's going to be very challenging. Like, you can kind of say, oh, like, we have a better marketing team, but it's really hard to unseat an entrenched sort of product. So, and we also, as a team, don't get excited about sort of these copycat things. So we looked at, like, what's next for us, and I think that with the market, if we factor in that, at some point, the market will turn around, and when tokens start going back up again, these 10% products or whatever it is, 15% yield products aren't that attractive anymore, because all of a sudden, like, ETH went up 2x, and it's like, okay, I want to be in that now. So two buckets that we're working on. First is improving our existing single chain products. One of the things I mentioned was making it very cheap to invest into large amounts of assets. We think that the value of an index scales linearly with the number of assets. Plus, we're generating yield on those underlying assets, and we're going to be adding more locations. Currently, we use Yearn, but with Yearn, they only really support vaults that have multiple avenues to earn yield. That's their value. So we're going to be creating adapters for AV and Compound, EULA, so that we can have more options and have more of the indexes assets generating a yield. And then what we're really working on, that's going to be the major release, is cross-chain indexes. We're going to be we're already building this, and we hope to launch this in Q1 of next year, which is going to be the first DeFi native cross-chain index. So literally we call it the home chain, which we haven't decided exactly whether it's going to be Ether and L2. We're playing with both ideas, but essentially from, let's say, ETH, you'll be able to invest into an index that holds Matic, Avalanche, Optimism, Arbitrum token when that comes out, Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB. There'll be a whole, all of the largest L1 and other assets. And this is a broad market index, so this doesn't exist yet. If you think DeFi is considered niche compared to what we're going to be introducing in this index, so we're very excited about that. Building on top of Layer 0, which is obviously, sort of, I think, the best cross-chain messaging protocol that we've seen so far. So that's what we're really excited about. That's what our team's pushing forward on. And, it's really to sort of break ground with what's possible from DeFi native indexes.
Okay, great. Well, this has been fascinating. I want to open the floor to anybody who hasn't asked a question yet, who has one, or anything you guys want to add.
Yeah, so just a quick question, if I may. I was actually working at a DAO that was working on a very similar idea with kind of like actively yield-generating index products. That was about, I think, almost a year ago that we were really kind of pushing that there. And what we found was we really just kind of struggled to get TVL. It really seemed like there wasn't much interest in the product. I was wondering if you guys had done market research into, like, is there demand for that product? And if so, what kind of results did you find?
So what kind of product are you referring to there, sorry?
The index product.
Which one? A cross-chain one or a DeFi?
Well, both really. I don't have any kind of experience with the cross-chain one, but we did. It was PyDAO that I was working with, and we did kind of experiment quite heavily with DeFi indexes and with crypto indexes. Yeah.
So, that's an interesting one, and I spoke to Alex recently about that, and obviously I think they've gone in a completely opposite direction, being very kind of actively managed. I think that we're at a very early stage in crypto as a whole, right? And what we're doing is we're taking a long-term view, and we're looking at when capital comes into the space and the capital that's already here, how is it going to be managed? Do we think that in the future people are going to continue to manage their portfolios themselves as they grow? I tend to believe, and this is kind of our view of future, is that more and more capital is going to be managed by passive products, especially if you look at what the future holds and more capital coming in from retail institutions. Are they all going to be wanting to kind of actively manage everything themselves? Or are they going to want to, like they do in traditional finance, go to an index? I was with a traditional finance advisor the other day, and we're talking about equities, and guess what they say? They say the first thing, buy an index, don't even try it yourself. So I think that type of mentality hasn't yet been seen in crypto because everything thus far has been active. You buy Bitcoin, you buy Ethereum, you buy an altcoin, ICO, whatever it may be. You buy an IDO, you buy into DeFi, you buy this, you buy that. Passive investing and passive exposure hasn't really been a big trend as of yet, but I don't think that's indicative to that not happening and coming through. So I think that comes from, the ability of not just managing money, right, but also providing a service. And that's something that we've really tried to, think about with each one of our products, getting away from just managing something, but really trying to provide something more than just management itself. So with PDI, we're trying to expand and trying to double down on the yield, as well as supporting more assets, as well as making that whole process a lot cheaper, right? So it gets to the stage where you're like, well, am I going to outperform PDI with my DeFi assets? Yes or no? Is it cheaper? Yes. We're trying to create that framework and that thinking. And I think it's just time, really. But I'm very bullish about, the sentiment changing in the market. And I think that, as Oliver mentions, we want to be building where the puck is going and preparing ourselves and building the correct foundations with our own architecture and not kind of forking somebody else's. And I think that's really important for us in our positioning. But we've spoken to lots of people and everybody seems to agree with our thought process. We're not going to let kind of the current market trend kind of affect our thinking with that.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. As we speak to people, people are all very, very bullish on the future outlook of indexes. But obviously, at the moment, it's something that's they're not allocating capital to for whatever reason, right? Because the market's down, and even though people claim that they want to invest when it's low, they tend to not to when it actually happens. But I think it's a good point, and I think that what we're trying to do is, instead of forgetting about indexes and then when they come back around in vogue, having some similar architecture to where we were, we want to be just night and day different. So the number one index DeFi Pulse, right, has probably 25-30 million in it. That's a significant amount of money. That I would argue that is, product market fit has to a degree been found there. And we want to be ready for, I think with PIDAO, I read all of your governance proposals, and one of the things that you said was around just the number of assets and how it was difficult. And this is something that we're trying to solve for, so that, if we had an index in the next book, there's about 16 assets, truth be told, when we run our methodology every month, which we do transparently, and we post on the GitHub, on our rebalancing data GitHub, all of the results is a Python script that goes through all of the DeFi assets and it basically sorts them down into a list of ones that meet our criteria, minimum liquidity of $5 million, and certain token supply metrics, etc. There's about 16 assets, and then we don't include ones that are below 1%. Sort of weight, so it comes down to 13 assets. But in a bull market, I think that could easily double, and then I think it comes down to who can actually support that number, who can support 32 assets, and it's going to be tough. If you're doing swaps for 32 assets right at the point of sale, you're either going to have to just send people to the exchange, or which is a shame. Sending people to the exchange is a shame, because you ultimately don't get the capital into your products. You're just sharing around the existing capital with different people, and waiting for arbitrage to bring that back. That's the only way you get the capital in, is everyone buys on the exchange, and the exchange price eventually goes high enough that you can arb it, then you can then deposit the money. So it's kind of relying on the arb to get the money in. So we think that's going to be a key value prop for us moving forward. And obviously, the yield, I think if you have a product with 32 assets in it, with 20 of them generating yield, people would look at that and go, all right, it's hard for me to do that myself. And I think, with 13 you get there, but I think with double that and more, it's really very obvious that, okay, I can't really do that myself. It's going to take a lot of work.
All right. Anyone else with questions? All right. Well, we still have the forum post up, so if anybody has a question that comes off of today's conversation, please put it there. I want to thank Charles and Oliver for joining. This was incredibly informative and really interesting, and thanks for making the time, especially so late at night for you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for checking out the proposal. If you have any questions or queries, Oliver and I are in the group, so just ping us. I'm happy to go through anything that you guys want to get clarity on. We're really looking forward to working together and getting you guys involved in USV.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Jason said and really appreciate you guys coming out. I definitely really enjoyed listening to what you guys had to say. I think it's very, very interesting. And, if Teddy vouched for you, let's continue the conversation. So would love if you shoot me over a DM and we can kind of continue the conversation that way as well.
Yep, no problem.
Perfect. That sounds great. Thank you so much for your time, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, I think that leaves us one small order of business, which everybody here knows about. But if they don't, we still have a vote that is live. It's looking great. We have 29 wallets voting, which is the highest we've had for a really long time. And 16,000 Rook voted, which is getting us right back in a good neighborhood of being representative. So if you haven't voted yet, please go do, and we will have the results of that tomorrow. So with that, unless there are any additional issues that someone would like to surface, I will wish you all a happy holidays and great rest of the afternoon.
Just wanted to say you did a good job.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, take care.